Welcome back to Just Scrap Radio on BJPen.com. I'm your host, Cole Shaw, and episode 175 is live out of UFC 305. Just one guest this week, and we're going to be joined by, I think, one and a half of the co-main event, and Steve Erceg to preview his fight against Kai Kara France. Uh, this should be a really fun fight. Steve coming off that really close title fight, lost to Alexander Pantoja in a fight. He kind of surprised a lot of people, but this is a fight that Steve actually didn't really want. He said Kai's a guy that he looked up to coming in. He wanted to avoid fighting him unless it was for the belt, but this is the fight that is offered. He says he doesn't turn down fights, so it is the fight he's going to take, and he thinks, unfortunately, he is going to finish Kai, which he thinks is a bit disappointing. That'll be his third loss in a row, and he doesn't really know what the future of Kai in the UFC would be after that. But really good chat with Steve. He even touched on the Mokaev situation and kind of why he got a title shot and everything he's heard about that. But be sure to share the show, subscribe, and tune in next week for another episode of Just Scrap Radio.
All right, we're joined by UFC flyweight Steve Erceg, who's back in action in the co-main event at UFC 305. Steve, how's it going, man?
Yeah, good. Good to be here.
Yeah, before we get to this one, I just quickly want to touch on that last fight, like a pretty close one against Pantoja. A lot of people were kind of not expecting much out of you just because of how kind of quickly it was. Like, what do you take away from that fight against Pantoja? Like, not many guys fight for the belt in what they're like fourth UFC fight and have that close to a fight against the champion.
Yeah, I guess like first of all, like validation that I'm on that level. You convince yourself that you're the best in the world for a long time before you probably actually are, but yet to actually get there and put on a good performance was validating, and then obviously just highlighted all the things I got to work on. It's the ultimate pressure cooker, and chucking out the things that don't work and adding things that hopefully will lead to massive or even small improvements. So yeah.
And a quick turnaround, like just 3 months later, like was this a date you kind of had circled even like before that Pantoja fight of being on this card?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I would have preferred to be on this card with a belt, but
Mm.
didn't unfortunately go that way. So I wanted to be on this card no matter what. I wanted to fight in Perth, in front of my home crowd, my family, my friends, all that sort of stuff, and yeah, got my wish.
And Kai Kara France, like how happy are you with that opponent? 'Cause I know this is a fight you guys have kind of talked about before, like kind of both the top two flyweights from that region. So how excited are you for this one?
I mean, I'm excited. I'm getting to fight a good guy. I would have preferred it to be somebody not from this region, just because, yeah, somebody I've looked up to for a while. I was an amateur when he was a pro and like the top of the Australian, New Zealand MMA scene. So I wanted to avoid him if I could, but he got offered, and I'm not going to turn people down. And he's in the same boat I am. We're both looking for the same thing. So if it has to be, it will be, and we'll find out who the better guy is.
He's a fan favorite in that region though as well, but I know you are from Australia. So like, what do you think the crowd support will be like? Do you think it might be like pretty 50-50, or do you think it will be behind you?
I think it'd be like 70-30. There's a lot of New
Yeah.
Zealanders here, so a lot of them will be cheering for Kai, I imagine. But I'm also from Perth, so I imagine I'll get a lot of pop.
With Kai, like he hasn't fought in a bit. I think that last fight against Amir, I thought he won that fight. Like what he kind of made of his last couple of fights.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the Amir fight. I thought the same thing. I thought he won that fight. And was the fight before that against Moreno?
Yeah, and that's when he
Yeah,
that liver kick for the interim belt.
yes. So that fight, honestly, I thought he was starting to actually find his timing and starting to come on, and then he got a shot landed. So that's life. It is what it is. I think he's a good fighter. I think he's looked good in his last couple of fights. It's gonna be a war, that's for sure.
He hasn't fought a whole lot. Like this is just his third fight since like in 2 years. So, like, do you think that layoff, and it's like a first fight in like a year? So do you think that layoff will impact him at all?
I doubt it. I don't think it would impact me. Like there's like little mental things that you get like advantages from fighting consistently, but he's been doing it for so long. All the physical stuff will still be there, and he'll be able to talk himself into confidence and that all that sort of thing. So I don't think it'll make much difference.
For this camp, do you bring in anyone else, or is it just kind of the usual guys you've been working with?
Mostly the usual guys. Like I have a great team and um, great training partners, but there's another guy I did get to spar with quite a few times this camp, which is Cody Haddon. He is fighting on the Contender Series later in the year, so it's been good to do stuff with him.
For you, like, what do you think the fan reception will be like next? Because I think like now that you've had a couple fights, you fought for the belt. Like, I know they'd obviously like you no matter what. If this was your debut and you're in Perth, like, what do you think that fan reception is like? That you have had that title fight, and like, I think you're just gonna be loved even more in that arena.
Yeah, I hope so. I don't know. It's I'm definitely getting noticed a little bit more walking around and that sort of thing. So I imagine the more familiar you are with somebody, the more likely you are to be a fan, right? So if they'd
Mm.
never heard of me and they heard I'm from Perth, they'd probably still cheer. But the fact that they probably will know who I am, it's going to give a little bit more energy to the crowd, I think.
Is it pretty surreal that your past two fights have been like a main event and then a co-main event of a pay-per-view?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely funny to think I fought obviously early prelims and then prelims, and then since then I've been didn't get to like first fight of the main card or anything like that. It's like get straight propelled like straight up to the big dog. So it's kind of weird, but yeah, I have a lot of gratitude towards it.
And other than the Schnell fight, they've been throwing you on the pay-per-views. They obviously saw something in you to be throwing you on the big cards.
I think honestly the first one was just lucky, because I was supposed to be on an Apex card, and then my opponent pulled out with an injury, and Matt Schnell pulled out, so I got stuck straight on a big card. That was lucky, and then I think they liked the way I fight and the fact that I took short notice fights, so they gave me another big opportunity, and then yeah, just kept the ball rolling.
With Kai, he's obviously known for striking his power, but like, how do you think you kind of match up against him?
Yeah, I think I matched up well. He is a good striker. He sets up his power strikes well, and he's got really good takedown defense. But I really think that I have more weapons than he does. I'm dangerous in more areas, and I think that over the course of the fight, I'll show that and come away with the victory.
Your grappling is like kind of what you kind of started up with, but do you think because of like yeah the way you've been showing your striking in your UFC fights, like people are kind of almost like sleeping on your grappling a bit now?
Yeah, I think I don't know how to explain it, but a long time ago, I was listening to one of the Anzacs talking. I think it was Tyson Pedro, and he said that the base level of striking in Australia is actually quite high, and the base level of like wrestling and grappling was a little bit lower, whereas it's like reversed over in America. So I think that over here my grappling really like shined, and then over there my striking is shining
Mhm.
just based on the natural strengths of the region.
With this fight against Kai, like how do you kind of see it playing out then?
I think we're both going to try to kill each other, and I think I'm going to be able to put one on his chin. That's
Mm.
how I think it's going to go.
He is ranked fourth in the divisions. Like, where do you think that win kind of puts you? I know they have Tyra Roybal booked. Like, I think kind of one of these fights have to kind of come out and get that title shot.
Yeah, I think I'll be put into the top five, and I think I'll have to, especially like it depends a lot on the performance too. But I think at least one more after this fight could get me back to a title shot. I think it's likely that the winner of Tatsuro Taira and Brandon Royval fights for the title, and then when Amir Albazi's back, he'll probably have to fight one more time before he gets a shot. So could be, yeah. I don't know who this next fight will be, but somebody good.
I actually think you'd be in a better spot than Brandon if he would beat Tyra, just because your fight against Pantoja was a lot more competitive than what his was against Pantoja.
Um, yes, I think it is more competitive, but I would be one fight removed from fighting him, and he'd be
Yeah.
I think it's two fights removed. So, um, yeah, we'll see what happens. Might have to do me and him title eliminator after this.
One flyweight that's not on the roster anymore is Mokaev. What you make of that whole situation, the whole fight week? There's brawling, and then kind of the UFC just cutting him and saying like he's been too much of a pain to deal with.
Yeah, I was definitely surprised, but I think it's a kind of a good precedent to set because if people like fighters fighting before fights like that is what it is kind of thing. Like you don't want to see it because you don't want the fight to be compromised or whatever. But one on one, they both know you're coming. You're fighters. That's what you do, right? But
Mm.
the way Makayev did it, sort of oh, let's get a photo, and then like sucker punched him in the back of the head, and then his team's all fighting. It's just that's sort of cowardly. I didn't like that at all. And then just I got to see firsthand the sort of way he treats other people, and I thought it was disrespectful. And I don't know what gave him the idea that he's that important and should be that like lauded over, but I didn't like it. So the fact that they're cutting him because he's too difficult, I think, good precedent, and hopefully he grows and learns from it.
And do you think that kind of played a role in you getting the title shot then? Because you guys were both on the same
Oh.
card. Like he obviously had the more high profile fight, but then people were kind of surprised you got it over him, and then kind of all this started playing out. And I guess it kind of making a lot more sense why you got instead of him.
Yeah, I think it makes more sense now. I mean, I thought even though his fight wasn't that exciting, they would like the fact that it's a young guy and the champs called him out and all that sort of stuff. But if yeah, he's a problem, they probably don't want him to win the title and then go, oh well, we kind of want to cut him, but we can't now. And so I think it worked out for the best.
Just last thing, like you get past Kai, like what is kind of the goal for the rest of the year? Like you hoping you can maybe get one more, and you think this will be it for you?
We'll see how the fight goes. Obviously, I don't like to make too many plans before fights. But yeah, whatever happens will happen.
Actually, just one more quick one. Is there any pressure on you fighting at home? Like, just given this is like your home, and I bet there's probably a lot of friends and family in attendance, and like people probably messaging you, being like, "Oh, give me tickets," or "Oh, I'm coming to watch." Like, does that add a bit of pressure on you?
Yeah, of course. I definitely want to win at home. I don't want people coming onto my home soil, my territory, and taking me out in front of my family and friends. So I definitely want to. There's extra pressure for sure. But I've shown, I think, plenty of times that just because there's extra pressure on me doesn't mean I'm going to fold the world title fight. I think showed that people didn't expect much of me. Big moment, never been in that kind of spotlight, and I performed quite well. So I think I'll do the same here.
Well, Steve, I appreciate the time, and a lot more easier travel for this fight than the last one.
Yes, I'm looking forward to waking up in my own bed. That's for sure.